I just wanna have fun, clap my hands, turn around now and dance, dance, dance.
When it comes to buying legit anything, what affects us Indians the most? Is it the value associated with the product? Is it the looks of the product? Or the emotional quotient or the feel of it? No, it is the price and everything related to it. And that is the exact reason why this has come into existence, the Ather 450S.
I just wanna clap, clap, turn around, dance, dance. I just wanna clap, clap.
You see, the reduction in FAME 2 subsidies has forced EV makers to roll out slightly detuned or toned down versions of their already existing products. And that is the exact route that is being followed by Ola with their S1 Air, and Ather is following it up with the 450S. And it is not just the 450S that has come into existence because of the very same reason, because Ather has also announced a 450X's version which is going to be powered by a 2.9 kWh battery pack instead of the 3.71 kWh battery pack that we find on the standard 450X. But more on that later. This is Anand Pandey, you're watching BBC Top Gear Mag India, and this is the first ride review of the Ather 450S.
Turn around, dance, dance.
So when you take a good look at the 450S, it is going to be very hard to differentiate it from the regular 450X, because you see, when it comes to the aesthetic differences, there aren't any. Well, just a few of them, because the 450S gets slightly redesigned or recolored bodywork on the headlamp cluster, but apart from that, everything remains the same, exactly the same. Apart from the 450S badging that we find on the front apron and on the side panels. But apart from that, it is the exact same scooter when it comes to underpinnings as well, but more on that later. Now, the biggest change that the 450S has over the 450X, that was sort of a tongue twister, wasn't it? Is that it gets a smaller 2.9 kWh battery pack as opposed to 3.7 kWh battery pack that we find in the regular 450X. Now, as a result, it is paired to a slightly detuned motor, which is rated at 5.4 kW as opposed to the 6.4 kW motor that we find in the regular 450X. Now that also takes a toll on the overall torque figures, because the 450S is down by 4 Newton meters as compared to the 450X. Now to give you the exact numbers, the 450S, it puts down 22 Newton meters as opposed to 26 Newton meters that we find on the 450X. Now as a result of the slightly detuned motor, the performance figures of the 450S are slightly lazier. Now to give you the exact figures, it takes around 3.9 seconds for the 450S to clock 40 km per hour from a standstill, while it takes only 3.3 seconds for the regular 450X to cover the same distance, while the top speed is rated at the same 90 km per hour for all the variants of the Ather 450. The claimed range of the 450S stands at 115 km, so we are looking at a real-world range of around 80 to 100 km. Now during the presentation, Ather was kind enough to let us know that on an average, an Indian commutes around 30 kilometers in a day. So, a smaller battery pack with comparatively lesser range and a more affordable price tag shouldn't pose a problem for most of the commuters out there. However, if you're looking at a commute distance of around 100 kilometers in a day, I'll suggest that you look elsewhere, or a petrol-powered scooter, that is. Another area where a lot of cost cutting has happened is the instrument cluster, because the 450S, it makes do with a deep view LCD instrument cluster as opposed to the touchscreen enabled TFT cluster that we find on the regular 450X. And apart from that, there are a lot of changes have been made to the switchgear as well.
The Deep View LCD instrument cluster might be a product of cost-cutting measures, but it still packs all the necessary information and then some more. However, to toggle through the menus and sub-menus, you will have to make use of the newly introduced switchgear. Despite being a downgrade, it still shows turn-button navigation that is more advanced than most of such setups in the Indian market. But we couldn't access this feature during most of our ride because of some bug in the Ather app. Other notable features include: sit down, it is going to be a long list; dashboard auto brightness; find my scooter, auto hold, auto indicator cutoff, guide me home lights, coasting region, call, and music control. Razor sharp handling and thrilling performance might have been the swords that have carved out Ather's stronghold in the Indian market, but another area where the Bangalore based EV maker has left a mark is the build quality. The 450S2 feels solidly built with no uneven panel gaps. Even the updated switchgear seems like an upgrade from the 450X. However, the left rear view mirror became loose and started hanging for its life just after a few kilometers of riding it, and that came as a sort of a surprise. However, that didn't stop us from having fun with it, because even in its detuned form, this 450 still packs some thrills. Another thing on which the 450S misses out on is Aether's pop mode. But in the sports mode, the performance on offer seems enough for our road conditions, as the 450S lunges ahead to clock 90 km per hour on the new LCD instrument cluster. However, eco and ride modes are best suited for urban runabouts only. The 450S starts losing steam, which could be a little worrisome on freeways. On the other hand, the sports mode will see you clocking 80 km per hour with relative ease. The only downside of sports mode is the real world range, because if you wish to have the undiluted Aether experience, the 450S will only run for 65 to 70 kilometers in the sports mode. Apart from that, in the sports mode, you will be faster than most of the people out on the road. The throttle calibration, it is on point, making it vastly better in this department from the S1 Air. It is more refined than your traditional ice-powered scooters, but thankfully lacks the sudden jerks in throttle response that are associated with electric scooters. The whine that the scooter lets out while gaining momentum is something that really added to the overall ride experience. What the Aether 450S lacks is versatility. It is the single minded approach towards ride and performance that has taken a toll on its practicality. The floorboard space is only enough to accommodate riding boots, and even the suspension setup affirms the fact that the 450S it is still a sporty scooter and not your everyday workhorse. The scooter lets out a loud thud whenever it crashes into a deep pothole, screaming on top of its voice that it isn't meant to do that. Slow down on rough surfaces, let them pass, and then give it the beans. That is how you ride the 450, because on smooth roads, the dynamics are commendable. It remains stable in straight line but becomes a different scooter altogether if you show it some corners. It tips into corners with an urgency that I've seldom experienced on a scooter before, so much so that it feels like you might tip over. But you don't, and that is the magic. Braking is another area where the 450S leaves nothing to complain about, because the setup is potent and full of feedback. The only downside is the lack of anti-lock braking system.
I just wanna pop, turn around, and I just wanna pop, turn around,
Despite these changes, it is still safe to say that the 450S is still a true blue Aether, because it is built around the same hybrid aluminum frame and it follows the same ethos of prioritizing ride, handling and performance. So, the major question is, who is it for? So if you're looking at a commute distance of around 50 to 60 kilometers a day and looking at an electric scooter but don't want to spend that much amount on the 450X, the 450S makes a lot of sense, and the sole reason behind that is because it is the cheapest Aether 450 that you can get in the country today. However, if you wish to have the same set of features and the same set of performance as the regular 450X, the 450X with the smaller battery pack makes a lot of sense to me and sounds like a sweeter deal as well. Thanks for watching this video till the end. This is Anand Pandey from BBC Talk and Mag India signing off, and I'll see you around.